So we were discussing about what is Prometheus and what is Grafana yesterday. Today we'll try to see how can we set up or how can we install Prometheus and Grafana in a Kubernetes cluster using Helm. As we discussed already, Prometheus has a several components. This is the architecture of Prometheus. There are a lot of exporters like node exporter, right? Kubernetes state metrics exporter. There are a lot of metrics which is required to be installed in the target machines, the machines which you want to, or the applications which you want to monitor, that should have a exporters. The Prometheus will pull it will pull the metrics from the exporters and it will process and maintain in a time series database here. This Prometheus, we can have a alerts, we can trigger a alerts. There will be alerts rules which we can define. These alerts will be triggered to the alert manager so that it can send an email, notification, and etc. If you want to visualize the metrics, we can use some other applications like Grafana so that we can visualize what is happening in your servers in a nice dashboard. So Prometheus is an open source monitoring system, open source monitoring system which is developed by SoundCloud in 2012. In 2016, Prometheus was the second project accepted into the CNCF, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. And now it's part of the CNCF along with Kubernetes. So Prometheus has a lot of components, as I told, alert manager, node exporters, Kubernetes state metrics. So alert manager handles the alerts sent by the client applications such as Prometheus server. And node exporter. The node exporter, basically we have a lot of exporter. One of the exporter is node exporter. The node exporter will send variety like all the information of hardware and kernel related metrics like CPU, memory utilization, your file systems, right? All the information it will gather. So Prometheus will pull the metrics from these exporters. And also, if you want to monitor your Kubernetes cluster, there should be some exporter. For that, we have a kube state metrics. Kube state metrics is a service that listens to the Kubernetes API server and generate metrics about the state of our Kubernetes objects. Like what is the state of your objects, how many deployments are there, how many parts are there, right? All those information. And Grafana is designed to analyze and visualize the metrics. If you want to visualize like what is happening, right? To visualize the data, we can use Grafana. So now we'll see how to deploy this one in a Kubernetes. So before I deploy using Helm, like let me show you if I want to deploy this one in Kubernetes. What and all objects has to be deployed. Okay. If you want to deploy manually, If I want to deploy manually, right? What and all things we have to deploy? Let me show that in a YMLs first. If you see, if I want to deploy, we are trying to deploy Prometheus, right, in a Kubernetes cluster. We are trying to create a deployment for Prometheus. We are trying to create a deployment for Prometheus. And in Prometheus, this is a very important file where we are going to define what metrics it has to gather, from where it has to gather, and how frequently it has to gather the metrics. We call it as a scrapping, right? So if I want to deploy manually, I need to apply all these YML files. If you see, we are creating a deployment for Prometheus. This is the image. And if you see, this is the file which is required for Prometheus, which will have the all the information. This file we can inject for this Prometheus container at a runtime using values. So you can create a config map, and you can map that config map. You can define this YML file content in a config map. That config map you can attach as a value, so that you can change your YML file at runtime. Whatever you want to update in this YML file, you can create a config map. That config map can be attached as a value while deploying this application. You need to create a deployment for Prometheus, and you need to create cluster role binding, lot of objects you have to create. You need to create a lot of objects. If you see this one, let me show another one. If you see, we are creating a service account. We need to create a service account for Prometheus. We need to create a service account for cube state metrics, which we want to deploy. And if you see, we are creating a config map. In config map, we are defining, we are for config map for two applications. One for alert manager, where you are mentioning how frequently it has to, trigger the alerts if there are any alerts. And there is a config map for Prometheus server, this Prometheus.yml, where we are defining how frequently it has to scrap the information, and what are your alerting rules, right? And from where and all it has to gather the metrics. If you see, it will connect to the API server and it will gather the metrics. It will connect to the node Kubernetes machines and it will gather the metrics. We are providing the targets in this file from where it has to gather the metrics, and also what type of data it has to gather. All this information is part of your config file, this Prometheus.yml, which we are defining as a config map. And what are the alerting rules, right? What alerts has to be triggered? All these things will be defined as part of a config map. This will be used as a value for your Prometheus server. This config map will be used as a value. So at runtime, you are changing your Prometheus settings. Now we are creating a persistent value claim for Prometheus server and for alert manager, and we are creating a cluster role for a Kubernetes state matrix. Why we are creating a cluster role for Kubernetes state matrix? Prometheus will contact basically Kubernetes state matrix, that is one application, to gather the information about Kubernetes objects. Why we need to give a permissions to Kubernetes state matrix? If I don't give a permissions to Kubernetes state matrix, what will be the problem? Kubernetes state matrix is an application which will contact API server to get the information. Will it able to get the required information without having a access? Will it able to get the information without having an access? Kubernetes state matrix has to gather the information from API server. Guys, are you there? I'm asking a question. How can I give a permissions to the applications which are running in a Kubernetes? How can I give a permissions to the API server? Using service account, right? So we created a service account. We are creating a role. This role is bound with the service account. If you see, we are creating a role for Prometheus. We are creating a cluster role for Kubernetes state matrix, role binding, and we are creating a service for Prometheus, for alert manager, and node exporter. Right? So we are deploying lot of applications in this cluster. If you see, we are creating daemon set for node exporter. We are creating a daemon set for node exporter so that Prometheus will scrap, Prometheus will pull metrics from the node exporter. Right? If I want to deploy Prometheus, I have to deploy lot of applications, lot of objects, Kubernetes objects I have to create. If you see, instead of doing in this way, there is already a Helm chart. There is already a Helm chart. I can install this application using Helm chart. I can install this application using Helm chart. I can customize the values at runtime. Whatever values I want to customize, I can customize those values at runtime. If you see, as part of deploying this Prometheus server, we are using a volumes for Prometheus pod. We are using a volumes for alert manager pod, because Prometheus is going to maintain the information about your node, about your Kubernetes objects, right? If I don't use the value, if Prometheus pod goes down, it will not be recreated. If Prometheus server goes down, it will not be recreated. So we are using a volumes as part of the Helm chart. We are going to create a persistent volume claim. As part of a Helm chart, there is a persistent volume claim which will be created, and there should be a storage class which will create a persistent value. We are going to create a claim with a dynamic storage class. So we should have a storage class configured so that volume will be created. And you need lot of high configuration servers because we are installing lot of applications, Prometheus and Grafana related applications in this cluster. So we can add a Helm chart. We can add a Helm repository. This URL needs to be updated. Okay, I will update and I will send you. So now let me connect to my Kubernetes client machine. Let me connect to my Kubernetes client machine where I have a kubectl installed. Let me connect to my Kubernetes client server where I have a kubectl configured and also Helm configured. If you see, so this is the URL as of now. The repository, Helm repository URL got updated. Now if I try this one, I may get a message. Let me change this one. If you see, this is no longer available. We have to use this one. Okay. So this is the Helm repository which we have to add as part of it. As part of it, we have a Helm charts for Prometheus and Grafana. As part of it, we have a Helm chart for Prometheus and Grafana. So first, I'm going to create. I already added this Helm repository. If you see, I already have the Helm repository added. As part of this, we have a Helm charts. Lot of Helm charts are there. If you see, Prometheus is there, Grafana is there, right? Lot of softwares are available as a Helm chart. If you see, there is a Helm chart, stable Prometheus. Now, if I see this Helm templates, Helm template, it is going to generate lot of, it is going to deploy these many things in a Kubernetes. It is going to deploy a deployment for Prometheus using this image, right? And it is going to deploy lot of applications like daemon set for node exporter, deployment for alert manager, and Kubernetes state metrics. It is going to create one deployment for Kubernetes state metrics. It is going to gather all these informations like your Kubernetes deployment informations, right? Horizontal pod autoscaler informations, daemon sets informations, complete Kubernetes objects information. It is going to create a daemon set for node exporter, service for your Prometheus, alert manager, lot of YAMLs. You can see these many objects are going to be deployed in this cluster. So I have not yet deployed. I was just showing what are the things it is going to be deployed and what are the values which is going to be used by default. If you see, I am executing Helm show values, this chart time. It is going to have all these values. Let me route it to one temporary file. I will show that. If you see, it is going to have lot of information like lot of default values. If you want to customize this one, you can customize, right? If you want to customize, you can customize. And if you see by default, your Prometheus will be deployed, your Prometheus, for Prometheus, it will create a service of cluster IP. If you want to change, instead of cluster IP, if you want to change it to node port, you can change, right? And if you see, the most important one here, persistent value, right? It has to be enabled. If you see persistent value is enabled, so that it will create a claims. It will create a claim for maintaining the data of your Kubernetes, the metric server information. The Prometheus server will use value. Alert manager will use value. If I have value enabled, and most importantly, here, if you see at the last, the Prometheus.yml file information will be there, where we are going to define how frequently it has to gather the information. Here, if you see, these two things are very important. This Helm chart will use whatever information we have defined here. It will be creating a config map for alert manager, and whatever we are defining in the alert rules here, it will be used by Prometheus server, like what are the alerts, what you want to trigger, what you want to monitor. And this Prometheus.yml file will have all the information, like how frequently it has to gather the information, from where it has to gather the information, right? Kubernetes nodes. It will try to connect to the Kubernetes nodes, and it will gather the information from the node exporter. And also it will try to connect to the Kubernetes, that kube state metrics, to gather the Kubernetes information. So these two files are very important. One is the Prometheus.yml. Whatever we are defining here, this will be used by Helm to create a config map. That config map is used as a value in your Kubernetes, Prometheus deployment file. So here we need to customize something, right? Suppose if I want to trigger alerts, I need to configure my information, my SMTP details here. If I want to send an email notification, I have to configure, I have to provide my SMTP details here, right? So we have to update this file, values file. So for making it simple for you, what I have done, I no need to modify this very big file. I need to modify only few lines of code in this file. So what I have done, I have created that values file for you, and I am maintaining that in our GitHub. So Here, if you see, I am modifying only few lines of, few things in this values file. So that's why what I have done, I have taken one that YML file and I modified only whatever is required for us. Okay. If you see here, let me take this one. I am modifying only whatever is required. If you see, alert manager will have one YML file which will be injected as a config map. For that config map, I am defining this information. Receivers. Whenever there is a alert triggered, from Prometheus, where should it send the alert? So here I am defining a notification, email notification. Since we don't have any organization SMTP, what we are doing, I am using Gmail SMTP. So I am providing my email ID, my Gmail ID, to which one I have to send a mail. Here you can give your company, your project DL. If you are working in your project, right, you can give the project DL so that whenever there is an alert, it will trigger alert to the DL. And your from mail address, from where it has to trigger. And here I am using Gmail SMTP details. Your from email address, username, and both should be there. This from and these two should be same. Then your password of your Gmail, right? And header, whenever it will trigger a alert, right? Alert will have this subject. Prometheus alert. If you want to customize something, you can customize. And it will send this summary, that whatever alert it will trigger, right? It will send a alert summary as a subject, as a message. This file will be used by alert manager. Let me show that how it will be used. When I see that, right, it is going to deploy alert manager. If you see, it is going to create a deployment for alert manager. And if you see, this is the YML used within that alert manager. How are we passing this at runtime? If you see, as a value, as a config map. If you see, we are using a value for this deployment. We are creating a config map with this information, whatever I am showing here. Helm will create a config map with this information. This config map will be used here as a value. This is the config map, it is going to be created. This is used as a value here. If you see, it is getting mounted to that etc config, whatever file, whatever we are creating as a config map. So we are passing that alert manager.yml file at runtime using config map, using values. Similarly, this is alert rules for your Prometheus. Whatever you want to monitor, I have created few alerts to demonstrate. If you see, I have created few alerts. if instance is down for 2 minutes, suppose some server is down for 2 minutes, right? It will trigger a alert. And if server is having very high memory utilization, suppose I am trying to have a formula here, if you see, based on this, alert will be triggered. So if server is having memory utilization, right, greater than 85%, then this alert will be triggered. This alert will be triggered. Suppose it is having some errors while creating a persistent values, Kubernetes alerts, it will be triggered. Suppose some of the pod is not running, some of the pod is not running, pod is in a crash loop, pod is in a crash loop error, we will be triggering a alert. So Prometheus will gather all the information from the exporters. Like Prometheus has a lot of exporters. These exporters will generate a data which is understandable, which will, which can be understood by Prometheus. If you see, Prometheus has a lot of components, right? Prometheus will gather the information from the exporters, right? There are a lot of exporters. This is the file which I am talking about, how frequently it has to gather, from where it has to gather, right? And Prometheus will gather the information from the exporters. There are a lot of exporters, right? If you see Prometheus, exporters, Prometheus has a lot of exporters, right? It can monitor databases. If you want to monitor database related information also, there will be exporter for MySQL. You need to install this exporter in your database server so that it can send database related metrics. And if you want to monitor your servers, right, you can see there are exporters like node exporter, which can monitor the nodes, right? And if you see, if you want to integrate with Jira, there are exporters. And if you want to integrate with messaging queues, there are exporters. If you want to monitor your HTTP servers, there are exporter. So lot of exporters are there. You can use these exporters. You have to install these exporters so that it can gather the information from these exporters. These exporters will generate a data which can be understandable in a Prometheus format. It can be understandable in a Prometheus format, right? If you generate some data which is not understandable by Prometheus, it will not able to, understand. So you have to use these exporters, whatever you want to monitor. There are a lot of exporters, right? This file is for alert manager. This file is rules. We are generating a rules, like whenever there is a CPU utilization, memory utilization is greater than 85% in any node, we are triggering a alert. Whenever some node is down, for continue 2 minutes, we are going to trigger a notification. These are the alert rules which we are passing for Prometheus, right? Now, first let me deploy without that file. without customizing that file, so that you can understand nothing will be, no alerts will be created, right? It will just monitor, but it will not create alerts. So first I am trying to deploy without that values file. Okay? The default values, I am trying to deploy with the default values. So first let me create a monitoring namespace in which I am going to deploy. I am creating one namespace called monitoring. As of now, we don't have anything in monitoring namespace. We don't have anything in the monitoring namespace. Now I am trying to install Prometheus with the, with the default values, but I am trying to change alert manager service type. I am changing as a node port. If you want to use ingress, you can create ingress rules for this one also. For the sake of time, I am trying to create service of type node port. I will access Prometheus on a node port, and I will show that. So let me remove this. I am trying to install Prometheus using Helm chart. This is my release name. I can call it as a release name. I am only changing as of now the service types for alert manager, service type for Prometheus. If I install this one, let me show what and all things will be installed. It is going to install lot of things. Now, if you see that monitoring namespace, sorry guys, I have installed in a default namespace. Let me remove this. I have not mentioned -n, right? So it has installed in a default namespace. If you see, it has installed in a default namespace, all the Prometheus related. Let me remove this. Then I will install in a monitoring namespace. Let me remove. Let me install -n monitoring. Whatever namespace you have created, in that namespace I will deploy. Now, if you see in this namespace, lot of applications got deployed. Prometheus server, node exporter, state metrics, alert manager. If you see, there is a daemon set for node exporter, because each and every node should have a node exporter, which will send the node information, and Kubernetes state metrics to gather the Kubernetes objects information. And there is alert manager, which is getting created. And there is a Prometheus server, which is going to gather all this information. So it will take some time. Lot of objects got created. And also it has created few config maps. It has created few config maps also. If you see kubectl get config map -n monitoring, it has created a config map for Prometheus server. It has created a config map for alert manager. These guys has the information about the files which I have explained, right? If you see kubectl describe config map, if you see your in monitoring namespace, if you see as of now, I have used default one, nothing is configured. Your SMTP details, none of the receivers got configured. So even though Prometheus trigger alerts to alert manager will not send any notifications because I have not configured anything as of now. Similarly, if you see this Prometheus server config map, which got created and which got used as a value in your Prometheus. As of now, I don't have any alerts. I have not defined any alerts, right? If you see alerts, no alert rules. There are no alert rules, right? And it is going to gather, it is going to scrap the information for every 1 minute. It is going to gather the information for every 1 minute. From where and all it has to gather, it has defined here. It will try to gather the information from all the nodes, node exporters. It is going to gather the information from Kubernetes state metrics. All these informations are available here. Now, let me access the config map. Sorry, let me access the Prometheus and I will show how it will be. Now Prometheus is up and running. As of now, I am using node port, guys. As of now, I am using node port to access this one. This is the port number for Prometheus and this is the port number for alert manager. Now I can use node IP. Node IP, your node IP in the sense your Kubernetes nodes IP as of now. I don't have a load balancer. Okay, so both are running in a private subnet. We don't have a public IP address. We cannot access using node port. These two servers, these Kubernetes workers, both are running in a private VPC. We cannot access. So let me change this. Now we need to create a ingress rule for this. We can access using ingress. So for now, let me create a ingress rule myself. Because both the worker machines are running in a private subnet. Can I access the private subnet servers from outside VPC, AWS VPC concept? Can I access? I cannot access. Now, there is a ingress controller already deployed. There is a ingress controller already deployed. I am going to create a ingress rule so that I can access using that ingress load balancer. So I'm going to define an ingress rule for this alert manager. Something like this. Now I will have a domain. I will create a subdomain, something like this. Prometheus dot mithuntech devops.co.in. Whenever request goes to this one, I want to route the traffic to this service, Prometheus service. Similarly, I will create another rule. Whenever request goes to this URL, grafana.mithuntechdev, I don't have a Grafana as of now. Alert manager, I will route the traffic to this alert manager service. Whenever I access something like this, I am going to create a mapping in DNS also. Whatever you want to give. I am creating a ingress file, ingress rule. Now let me apply this kubectl apply -f. I will apply. Now I have defined a ingress rules for this application. I have defined a ingress rule for this application. There is a ingress rule. Now I will map, I will create a routing in my Route 53, the DNS concept. So let me create a record set here that I will map to the load balancer of our ingress controller. Whatever I have used here. This is my subdomain, prometheus.mithuntechdevops.co.in. The request should go to the load balancer of our ingress controller. The ingress controller will route the traffic to that Prometheus service. Similarly, let me create a record set for alert manager if I want to show you what is happening in the alert manager. Many load balancers I have only one, that will be ingress. Okay. Now let me access something like this. This is your alert manager, right? As of now, if you see, do I have any alerts here? Nothing is triggered. Nothing is triggered. And if you see, I have not configured any receivers. I have not configured any receivers, even though if Prometheus trigger alerts to alert manager, it will not be sending to anything. Like I don't have configured any SMTP or Slack information here. Now, similarly, let me access Prometheus. Now it is going to gather the information from all that things, right? If you see, this is Prometheus In Prometheus, I have not configured any alerts. As of now, I have not configured any alerts, right? But Prometheus is already monitoring all the information. Now, if I see here, Prometheus, we call it as there is one query language, PromSQL, Prometheus query language. Prometheus query language. So Prometheus has already gathered the information. You can see it has gathered a lot of information, node related information, hardware, memory information, file information, right? So how much memory is consumed, how much memory is available, lot of information has already configured, already gathered. If you see all the hardware related, your node related information, network information, memory information, right? Lot of information has gathered by your Prometheus. It is gathered from the exporters, right? If you see memory related, if you see there are two servers, it is going to display the memory related information, right? Whatever we are using, right? Those whatever information is gathered by Prometheus, I can use this information to create alert, something like this. If you see node memory available bytes, it will give how much memory is available. How much memory is available. And if you see how much is total, how much memory is total, something like this. Total. I have 8 GB RAMs, right? How much is available total? And it will return how much percentage is, is utilized. So now this server has how much utilization, guys? This is available memory as of now. As of now, how much memory I have available? Still 90% of the memory is available, and this server has still 87% of memory available. Now, if I put something like this condition, what is the meaning of it? If any server is having CPU utilization greater than 85%, this is available. If available is less than 15, which means 85%. Available is less than 15%. Do I have any server as of now where my memory utilization is greater than, I mean to say 85%? So none of the server has that much load. As of now, this is available. One server is having 89%, another server is having 87%. So I can trigger alerts based on this information. If you see Kubernetes parts information also. If you see Kubernetes pods information, if any pod is in crash loop back off, right, it will trigger a alert. I am trying to use that information, whatever is gathered by Prometheus with the help of Kubernetes state metrics. If you see, all the pods are up and running, right? If there is any pod which is in a crash loop back off for 2 minutes, it will trigger alert. something like this. This is the expression, this is the condition I am using. Some kind of a formula, some kind of a queries, Prometheus SQL, PromQL, Prometheus query language. So none of the parts are in crash loop backup, right? So if some part is gone and if it is in a crash loop backup, if the count is greater than 1, it will trigger alert. If greater than 0, right, it will trigger alert. So Prometheus will gather all the information and it is going to maintain, and we can use these metrics to create alerts. As of now, did I configure any alerts here? Do you see any alerts? Nothing is there. If you see the configuration, I don't have any alerts. I don't have any alerts configured. Now let me use this YML. I will upgrade. I will use this YML file, whatever I have shown, right? Now I will update this one with my SMTP details also. So let me update this one. I want to trigger a mail to this email. This is my from mail address, right? I have configured my details and I already have the alerts. I have configured some alerts, right? So let me use this values file. Let me create. Now I am going to upgrade our Helm chart, our Helm application, Helm upgrade Prometheus. Our chart name is stable Prometheus. That is in monitoring namespace. And this is the values file I want to use. Now I want to upgrade this. Okay, there is, I think name is different. Helm ls -n monitoring. Okay, this is my chart. Now I am updating. Okay, because I deployed using cluster IP last time. I cannot we cannot change from cluster IP to node port to cluster IP. So let me use again these options. The default values file has a service of type cluster IP. I change it to node port. I cannot remove from, I cannot change from again node port to cluster IP. So again, I'm using this option. Now your applications are getting updated. Your Prometheus and alert manager is getting updated with whatever values I am sending now. So now after some time, when you access Prometheus and Grafana, here you can see that details. And Prometheus will have some alert rules configured, right? Now, you can see already this is getting reflected here. So already there is some part which is in crash loop back off, right? Let's see what is that. But it has to be there continuously for 5 minutes. If pod is there in a crash loop back off for continuously for 5 minutes, it will trigger an alert. Let's see. Which pod is. I can execute that one here itself, and I can see which pod is in that. Which pod is in that? Basically, I think the Java web app. Java web app is in. If you see, there is one pod which is in crash loop backup. Now, this Prometheus is gathering the information from the Kubernetes state metrics. Now, it has identified that one pod is in a crash loop backup. It is not in a running state. So Prometheus already fired the alert. Now, if you see, this alert is fired. This alert is fired to which one? Which application now? This alert is fired now. This alert is fired to which application now? The alert manager. Now, if I go to the alert manager, now can I see one alert here? Can I see one alert here? This pod is in crash loop backup. Now, this alert manager will try to trigger an alert. This alert manager will try to trigger an alert because I have configured a Gmail notification. If you see, now it will trigger a notification to this one. If I go here, let me log into my Gmail. But before, guys, right, if you want to use Gmail SMTP, what and all things you have to do in your Gmail? What mail ID I have given? Okay, I don't have this mail ID. Let me change to mail ID. I don't have this mail ID. Let me change this to mail ID. It's not a valid mail ID. Now let me again apply this change. Now alert manager will try to trigger alerts. I have updated my email ID to which I want to get an alert, right? Let me see. Let me log into that mail ID. I am expecting an alert here. I am expecting an alert here. The alert will be triggered. The alert will be triggered from this mail ID, whatever mail ID I have given here. Alert will be triggered from this mail ID. Now let me open that as well. Okay, password is different. I've given a wrong password, guys. Again, alert will not come. In my, I have configured alert manager with a wrong password. Password will not come. The alert will not come. If you see now, there will be an error in the alert manager logs. You can see there will be an error in the alert manager logs. Let me go and verify. If I see my alert manager logs, if your pod has multiple containers, you have to mention the container name also, the which container logs you want to see. Now, if you see, do you see there is an error? What it is saying? That alert manager is trying to trigger an alert and the username and password is not accepted because I have given a wrong password. So let me again change my YML file and redeploy that which is being used. Okay, here I have given XXX. Okay. So this is my password. Let me again redeploy this one with these changes. And again, guys, what you have to do, you already know. Whatever mail ID you have used, from mail ID, you have to enable security. Go to security. Here you have to allow less secure apps, right? So you have to enable this one. Otherwise, you will not get a alerts. So let's wait for some time. I will be expecting an alert here. In the meantime, can I share this alert manager application URL to the non-technical team? Like, there are directors, project, delivery leads. I know they want to see what is happening in your cluster. They want to see the systems at the particular time, what is happening inside in our servers. Can I share this URL to the non-technical guys? Can I ask them to execute some commands and get the information? Is it a user friendly? This alert manager, as a non-technical guy, will they able to understand anything from this one? What is happening inside your application, inside your servers? So Prometheus is not for a visualization, data visualization. So for that purpose, we are going to deploy one more application called Grafana. Grafana, we are going to deploy. So I'm trying to deploy Grafana again using Helm. Now, since I cannot access using node port, I'm going to deploy as a cluster IP. Then I will create a ingress rule for this. I'm going to deploy. I no need to modify anything here. I will just deploy Grafana chart, which will deploy only one application, Grafana. To access this Grafana, I will create a ingress rule. Now Grafana is being deployed. Now let me add this one, ingress rule for this application. Monitoring ingress rules. I will try to access Grafana also. I have to know what is the service name for Grafana. I'm trying to get the service name for Grafana. Service name is Grafana only. Now, whenever we access something like this, request should go to Grafana. Now let me apply this ingress. And let me create a record set for this one also in my Route 53 DNS. When I access something like this, grafana.mithuntech.devopsco.in, request I want to route to the load balancer. This load balancer is for ingress controller. Now let me access something like this. Grafana dot mithuntech devops.co.in. So this is my Grafana homepage. I need to log in. Let's see what is happening in the alerts. Someone just used your password to try. Okay, that is fine. That is fine. Let's see. After some time, I should expect an alert. If you see something like this, previously it sent alert something like this. It is going to give information. This much memory left, right? If your pod is in crash loop backup, it will send something like this. Some of the pod has in a crash loop backup. This is sent previously. Now, same way, I am expecting alert now. Let's wait for some time. And let me check again my logs of that, alert manager, because again, if something goes wrong, at least I can verify what is happening. Still, it is bad credentials. Why? This is taking so much time today. Yeah. Meantime, 1 second. Password which I used should be correct. Let me log in again. I have given correct username, correct password. Let's see. Let's wait for some time. Meantime, let me show the Grafana. So this is a Grafana homepage. The default admin username is admin. The password you have to get from the secret in your Kubernetes cluster for your Grafana. So this is the password of your Grafana. Now I have to configure a data source. As of now, nothing is there here, right? Grafana can gather information from any backend. Grafana can gather information from any backend. As of now, I have not configured the data source from where it has to gather the information. If you see in the settings, you have to configure a data sources from where it has to gather. Add a data source. Go to settings, data sources, add a data source here. If you see, it can gather information from these backends, right? It can gather information from Zipkin. It can gather information from Splunk, lot of backends, right? Now I want to gather the information from Prometheus. Now I need to give a Prometheus URL here. Since Prometheus also running as a pod, how can I access? Do I need to provide an IP address of my Prometheus pod, or do I need to provide an IP address of my server where my Prometheus is running? How can I, what can I give here so that Grafana can connect to the Prometheus and gather the information? How can we access? Service name. The service name of your Prometheus. So this is the service name of my Prometheus, Kubernetes service name, right? Will it able to communicate with each other, guys, using service name in Kubernetes? Or do I need to give a IP address of my pod or IP address of the server? Something like this. HTTP, this, right? Let's test. Now it is able to communicate. Now I have configured a data source. Now here we need to have a dashboard. So you need to create a dashboard. You can create your own dashboard, or you can use the dashboards which is developed by third party. So Grafana is an again open source project. So you can use the dashboards which is developed by third party, right? So there are a lot of dashboards which is developed by lot of people. If you see, you can use the dashboards, whatever you want to monitor. If you see you want to monitor your nodes, node related information, there is a dashboard created for this. Node exporter for Prometheus dashboard, right? You can use this dashboard, which is developed by third party. So this is the dashboard ID, which you can use to import this dashboard. This is developed by third party. some open source people. So go to your Grafana, go to dashboard here. And as of now, if you want to create, you can create your own dashboard, or you can import. Go to this home, click on manage. Here you can import the dashboard, right? If you see, there is an option called import. Provide the ID of the dashboard, which can load from that Grafana, from that application, from this one. And select the data source. What is the data source for this dashboard? Prometheus, right? So let me import this dashboard. I'm importing the dashboard. Now, can I see what is happening inside my server now from last 10 minutes, last 5 minutes? Server is up and running from how long? What is the memory? What is the CPU capacity? What is the CPU percent used? What is the memory percent used? Right? Now, I can see in a nice visualization, right? What is happening inside your servers. If you see, if I want to see in this server, I can apply this filter. If I want to see what is happening only in last 5 minutes, I can apply something like this. What is happening in last 5 minutes? What is the load on your system, right? What is the memory information, network bandwidth, right? You can see this information in a nice visualization. This is going to monitor your node related information. Suppose if you want to monitor Kubernetes related information, Kubernetes pods information, there will be a dashboard which you can use, or you can write your own dashboard. You can create your own dashboard in a given format actually. Now, let me go here. Data source is Prometheus. I want to collector. As of now, we have only cubes node exporter. I don't have for a cube state matrix. I have some dashboard IDs. Let me show that. Okay. So now let me import some dashboards using these IDs, right? This is going to display your system related information. Similarly, let me import some other dashboards. The backend is Prometheus. Now, if you see, I can see overall, like what is the cluster, total cluster, how much memory is available, total, not only one server, total memory available, cluster wide, how, what is the pod CPU utilization, right? What is the container, how much is taking, containers load, right? I can see all the information using this dashboard, right? I can see pod level. Each pod is taking how much memory, how much CPU, right? If you see all the information I can see in this dashboard. It is going to display what is the load on the current time from last 5 minutes, what is the load on each and every pod. I can see using this dashboard. Similarly, there are a lot of dashboards based on your requirement. You can set up a dashboard. So let me import some other dashboard. If you see, right, there are dashboards which will display the information based on your requirement. So let me import some other, some dashboard which we have on our own. I will upload the dashboard JSON file which we have created. This one we have created on our own. So the dashboard will gather the information. Basically, this Grafana is gathering the information from Prometheus and it is going to display in the required format. Right? You can have n number of dashboards, something like this. If you see, right, in some node, if you want to see at node level, each and every node, right, you can see what is happening inside this node, right, each container, each pod, how much memory, how much CPU is being utilized, right? You can gather all this information. You can see in a nice visualization. So you can use these dashboards, sample dashboards, which I have provided here. You can import and see what is happening. This information is gathered from the Prometheus, guys. These dashboards will, this Grafana is going to gather the information from Prometheus. That we are showing in a nice visualization. That's it. If you see something like this. So Grafana is a visualization tool. Prometheus is a monitoring software. Prometheus will trigger alerts to the alert manager. Alert manager will trigger alerts. Right now, if I have given my correct, username and password is correct, I should be able to see the notification. Still, something is wrong. Let me see my logs. Let me see the logs of my alert manager. What is happening? Still bad credentials. Why? Let me understand what is the problem. My password is correct. Okay. Maybe you have to unlock your captcha sometime, even after giving a correct password. If you are not able to get the mail, open this URL, whatever is given in this logs. Try to click on this one. You have to unlock your captcha because this is a Gmail SMTP, right? So now my account access is enabled. Hopefully, I should get a mail in 1 or 2 minutes here. Because there is one part which is still in a crash loop back off. Let me log in again. Now the alert manager hopefully should send a mail. Yes, it might have triggered now. Let me see the logs again. Two five. Then after 13 attempts. I have a lot of emails. I am so confused with my passwords. Which one is for what? Now let me see. I don't have any alerts. Let me go to my Prometheus. Okay, now one is in active. After 5 minutes, it will be triggered. Now one is in active. It will be triggered after 5 minutes. Now it is in a pending state. Since I have redeployed, right? So again, it is in active state. After 5 minutes, it will trigger. It will go to firing state. Then my alert manager will have an alert. That alert will be triggered. Okay. So this is how you can use Prometheus and Grafana, guys. When you are using your Gmail username and password, check the logs. If something is wrong, try to access this URL. Log in with your from address, whatever you have given. And here, from account, whatever from account you have used, log in with that from account, whatever you have used. If you are not able to access, try to follow the instructions. Whatever from account you use, log in with that account in your browser, try to follow the instructions. It will be able to trigger a mail. It may take any time between 5-10 minutes again. Now, after 5 minutes, the alert got triggered, no, fired. Now the alert manager will receive this alert. The alert manager will receive this alert. Then alert manager will send the alert. Prometheus is firing this alert, because even after 5 minutes, there is one pod. This pod is in a crash loop backup. This Java web application pod is in a crash loop backup. This alert will be fired to the alert manager. The alert manager will process that alert. That alert manager will trigger the alert. So based on the time intervals, whatever we have given, it will take that much time, guys. So I'm going to share this document, and also I'm going to share this. I already keep this YML file in our GitHub. Try to update your from address, true address, give correct passwords. And even after giving that, if you are not getting a mail, check your logs and enable less secure app access, and also try to unlock the captcha. Sometimes you have to unlock the captcha, then only you will get a mail, since we are using Gmail essentially. So this is how you can monitor your servers, you can monitor your applications using Prometheus and Grafana. You can visualize the metrics in a Grafana using the dashboards. There are plenty of open source dashboards is already available. We can use these dashboards to visualize what is happening in your servers. If required, we can create our own dashboards. Any questions, guys, on this, whatever we discussed so far?